Then Jesus entered a house, and again a crowd gathered, so that he and his disciples were not even able to eat. When his family heard about this, they went to take charge of him, for they said, "He is out of his mind." And the teachers of the law who came down from Jerusalem said, "He is possessed by Beelzebul. By the prince of demons, he is driving out demons." So Jesus called them over to him and began to speak to them in parables. "How can Satan drive out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. If a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan opposes himself and is divided, he cannot stand. His end has come. In fact, no one can enter a strong man's house without first tying him up. Then he can plunder the strong man's house. Truly, I tell you, people can be forgiven all their sins and every slander they utter. But whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will never be forgiven. They are guilty of an eternal sin." He said this because they were saying, "He has an impure spirit." Then Jesus' mother and brothers arrived. Standing outside, they sent someone in to call him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, "Your mother and brothers are outside looking for you." "Who are my mother and my brothers?" he asked. Then he looked at those seated in a circle around him and said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother."
Right at the beginning of his public ministry, Jesus stirs up a storm of emotions and controversy. As we observe the scene from the Gospel of Mark, we are confronted with questions about our faith and relationship with God. Let's imagine this scene. Jesus returns home and the crowds gather so densely that there is no time even to eat. His family, seeing this, starts to believe the rumors that Jesus has lost his mind. Even those closest to him do not understand his mission. How much this resembles events and situations in our lives when those who should support us do not understand us and even try to hold us back. However, what shakes in this story is the reaction of the scribes. They accuse Jesus of acting by the power of Beelzebub. Imagine a contemporary scene. A person brings hope and then healing, only to be accused by people of using unorthodox practices. And these are people who should understand and support him. It's like attributing harmful intentions to a doctor when everyone is regaining health. Jesus responds to such accusations decisively and powerfully, pointing out the absurdity of the charges. "How can Satan drive out Satan?" the master asks with disdain. In his teaching, Jesus goes further, warning against the greatest sin, blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. Attributing evil intentions to God's actions is more than just misunderstanding or error. It is a deliberate and conscious rejection of God's truth and love. It reminds us how often in our lives, in the face of difficulties, we ask God, "Why is this happening to me?" Or, "Are you truly good?" These questions, in themselves, can lead us to reject God's love and mercy. Today's world is full of confusion, misinformation, and manipulation. Each of us has experienced or witnessed life's struggles. This happens when we reject faith. In difficult times, it is easy to lose trust in everything around us, even in God. But Jesus reminds us that God is the source of all goodness. It is we, humans, with our weaknesses and fears, who project our anxieties onto God. The Apostle Paul writes in the 8th chapter of the letter to the Romans, And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. We must also remember the last words in this passage. Who are my mother and my brothers? Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother. This is a call to all of us to become part of God's family. This family is based not on blood ties but on faith and obedience to God's will. Jesus reminds us that true bonds are built not so much on shared genes, but on spiritual closeness, on common understanding, and approaching ultimate truth. Jesus calls us to open our hearts and minds to His truth, not to be swayed by the whispers of the world that try to discredit God's actions. Let us be brave in faith, strong in hope, and tireless in love. Remember, we are part of God's family, called to do His will. Christ brings us a message that transcends all human schemes. This message is a challenge, but also a promise. In the face of accusations and misunderstandings, Jesus shows that the truth and love of God are indestructible priorities. May this gospel remind us that at every moment of our lives, even in the face of misunderstanding and adversity, God is with us. He leads us, protects us, and loves us boundlessly. Bless us, Lord.